Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another week beyond the trailer park. And yeah, it's last week we had a full house. This week's looking a little slim, but Morgan unfortunately had student stuff to do tonight. And since we want her to pass her third year of law school, we understand. Beth, I don't know. I'm thinking she might be having some internet problems because I haven't seen her. So hopefully she'll get the message and pop in soon enough. But before I get into it too, I just want to wish everybody a happy Darwin Day. It is Darwin's birthday, so people are celebrating all things Darwin and evolution today. And of course, the creationists are going berserko, telling everybody that evolution is a lie and Darwin didn't know what he was talking about, et cetera, et cetera. But hey, we have concrete, absolute proof of evolution, so I'm not worried about it. So happy birthday, Darwin. Even though he actually was a Christian, he figured out what natural selection was. So kudos to him. And now we had the beginnings of what is evolution today, which is nowhere near like it was when he started it, but that's what science is. We learn and we get better. So this week, joining me all the way from BC, welcome to the founder of Atheist Republic, Armin Navabi.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And guess what, Armin? I figured out why you were quiet. My connection to my earphones was loose.
Oh, so I'm okay on my end. Everything was good.
You sound beautiful now. In fact, I might actually turn you down a bit.
Okay.
Live TV, yay! But so I guess this makes it the all Canadian version of the show this week.
Oh yeah, you're right.
That's good. That's all right. I don't. I've ever done.
I have dual citizenship, so.
Well, yeah, around Canadian.
Yes, but by the way, Iran doesn't recognize my Canadian citizenship.
That's interesting. So they just say no, you're Iranian, and
yeah. That's why if I go back to Iran, they'll hang me, right? And if Canada wants to say like, "Hey, why are you hanging our citizen?" Iran is like, "No, this is our citizen. We get to do whatever the fuck we want. We don't recognize the Canadian citizenship."
Lovely.
Yeah.
Which, if you were in good graces as an Iranian citizen, awesome. But when you're an ex-Muslim, not so much.
Well, if you're in good graces with in good graces with your Iranian citizenship,
yeah, like if they're not mad at you.
Well, then that means that you're not speaking out as much as you should be.
Yes, exactly. Which is the entire reason we are talking this evening. Is there's a lot of Iranians doing some speaking out lately,
right?
And it was a lot more in the news maybe a couple of weeks ago. Things have faded out a little bit. I mean, in our circles where you and I pay attention, people are still talking, but mainstream media is not really saying much. So for people who may not have heard before, or they've maybe forgotten because mainstream's not talking about it, what was going on, say, like 3 weeks ago?
Right. So you had these protests in Iran happening. I mean, I don't know how to summarize it because a lot went on.
Well, what would you say started it?
Okay, that's actually a very interesting question because it depends on who you ask, right? But we know. Okay, so according to the government, the foreign agents from United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia united to find some agents within Iran to very minor, small little protests happened, and some people that are basically foreign agents or part of the MEC group, which is a group that actually has very little support. It's a cult, which is very little support in Iran. And Iranians hate it, so they naturally blame it on MEC. So based on them, it was just a foreign conspiracy, nothing to see here. Iran is as powerful as ever, and most people in Iran are happy. And even if there were protests, the protests were not about freedom, human rights. They were all about the economy,
Right.
nothing to do about the government. This is the government's version. And
Version.
yeah, and the protests that are about the economy, they say it's legit and it's okay for people to come protest peacefully. But there are a few bad. Again, this is a government's narrative. There
Yes.
were a few bad apples that take advantage of these legitimate protests, and those few bad apples have been arrested and will be punished. So that's the government's narrative, right? And
Right.
then, so what actually happened was that how it started was it's bizarre because actually, for people to understand what's happening, a lot of people think it's a good way to compare it to the 2009 protest, the green movement that happened in Iran, and compare the similarities and differences, just to get a better understanding of what happened here, right? So in 2009, we had huge protests in Iran, which people call the Green Movement, and the government really, really responded to that in a very brutal way. A lot of people got killed, a lot of people got tortured, and a lot of people are still in prison for that, and it's some people are under house arrest, right?
Right.
Compared to that, this was smaller, but compared to that, a lot of people suggest that this was more significant, even
Okay.
though it was smaller. And this is, first of all, how it started was not the intention with the people that started it really didn't intend for it to turn out the way it ended, because it actually started by some conservatives in Mashhad, which is one of the more religious cities in Iran,
Okay.
against the reformists, against President Rouhani, which is supposed to be a reformist.
Right.
And these people started a protest by conservatives against the reformists to basically undermine his legitimacy by complaining about the economy. But once you had people in the streets and started protesting and saying death to Rouhani and all that, and these conservative, everybody else knows, hey, protests are starting again. And then they started joining the protest, and they brought their messages to the protest. And that's when things got out of control from the conservatives, and it backfired, and it turned into this whole new thing, which was not at all what the conservatives were intending to do. And all of a sudden, the messages were not just death to Rouhani, but death to Khamenei. Also, the messages weren't like why are eggs expensive. They were also, why don't we have freedom? Why is money going to religious organizations instead of the people? Why is money going towards spreading Shia Islam in the Middle East rather than spending it here at home? Why a lot of the messages were very anti-religious, which was very shocking to me, at least. Another thing that was shocking was
I think so
uh,
too. That's what stood out to me as an observer getting this, how many times through in the news was the religious component.
well, the thing is, it wasn't shocking to me that people had anti-religious feelings. It was shocking to me that how openly they were talking about it, right? And it wasn't also shocking to me that people were hating on Khamenei. I just never thought anybody would ever dare come into the street and ever say death to Khamenei. I would, even if people, it would, it's less scary for you to say I think there's no God than for in Iran than you actually coming and saying death to Khamenei. That's how scary that is. So that's, for me, like, I never expected seeing images of Khamenei being burnt in Tehran or other cities.
Yeah.
So this was very shocking to me.
That,
And yeah, go on.
would you say that's almost like a North Korean burning Kim Jong Un in effigy in the street? Like, not
No,
quite-
not
no,
like, no. They have
not,
North Koreans have a better control over their
not
people.
quite that extreme, but heading in
No.
that direction.
Yeah, I mean, in North Korea, if you do something like that, you will go to prison. If you will, they will make okay, just because Iran is crazy totalitarianist, it doesn't mean it's North Korea, right? Like in North Korea, I mean, I'm not saying this is not an endorsement of Iran, okay?
Yeah.
But even Saudi Arabia doesn't get as bad as North Korea.
North Korea is like the gold standard of crazy totalitarian.
Yeah, I mean, in Saudi Arabia, if I go and say, "Hey, fuck Muhammad," they'll execute me. Okay, they
Yes.
won't execute my son. That my son wouldn't go get the my in North Korea. If I say anything against the dear leader, I'll go to prison. My son will go to prison forever, and his daughter or son, even if it's unborn yet, once it's born, it will get 3 generations will get lifetime prison, hard labor, right?
Damn.
So, and I will get executed, and my family will be made to watch. And if they show any remorse or any of them cries, or they also get prison. So they have to watch me get executed and be happy about it. Yes,
Wow.
I mean, even Saudi Arabia is like, okay, that's fucking extreme, right? So
It's bad when Saudi says you're fucked up.
right. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, nobody. And again, this is not an endorsement of Saudi Arabia or Iran, but just
No.
because something is fucked up, that doesn't mean you can't outdo their craziness.
Yeah, that isn't something more fucked up.
Yeah.
But it is, but you're right. It is very surprising to see them torching Khomeini in the street.
Khomeini's dead.
Khomeini.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you spell that? Is that with an H or no?
They're both British. So just Khomeini, the one that is dead is O. The one that is still alive is A. So Khamenei is still alive.
Khomeini and Khomeini. Gotcha.
Khomeini is dead. Khomeini is the guy that started the revolution. Well, not didn't start it. He ended the revolution. He's yeah, go on, right?
I was just gonna say I remember him from when I was a kid in the 70s. So
oh yeah, the hostage negotiations made him famous.
Yep. Not that I cared when I was 6, but I cared because it would preempt my cartoons for news stories. That's why.
That's how I feel about Azan, actually, because this is how Iran made a lot of people hate religion, right? Every time when you're watching cartoon, it all of a sudden gets cut in the middle and Azan starts playing, which is the call to prayer. This is how you make kids hate Islam. This and another thing.
That's good though. Keep it up.
Yeah, when people hear Allah Akbar in the West, they remember like terrorism stuff. When I hear Allah Akbar, I think of homework, because whenever the Allah Akbar of Azan shows up, it means like, oh shit, cartoon time is over. I have to my mom, whenever the cartoon gets interrupted with the Azan, my mom would like, Armin, homework time. So whenever I hear Allah Akbar, I'm like, oh shit, homework, right? So that's which is as scary as terrorism. Anyways, but also another thing they do in Iran is that before you go to class, I don't know if they still do it, but I think they still do it. For 12 years before I went to we went inside to our class, every morning we had to stand in lines. Every grade stands in their own line, and you listen to the Quran recitation. Somebody with a good voice will come and recite a part of the Quran, and then you go to class, right? So the entire time it's either very, very hot or very, very cold, like sometimes, unless it's spring or something, right? And you just can't wait for this fucker to stop so that you could go inside, right?
So you're freezing or sweating.
Yeah, and you're like, and you have no fucking idea what the guy is saying because it's in Arabic, right? So it's just as soon as it's over, like, oh fuck, we get to go inside. So you're training kids for 12 years to be happy when the Quranic recitation is over. What do you think is going to happen, right?
And for most people maybe wouldn't know, and I'm assuming this is the case, that when they recite the Quran like that, they're basically singing it, right?
Yeah, they're kind of singing it. I don't know. They always say it's the most beautiful thing. The miracle of the Quran is supposed to be it's the most beautiful thing. And for all these years, I always know, how is this beautiful, right? Like
when they chant it like that, I find it to be really creepy.
Yeah, and I asked one of my teachers, they're like, hey, this in school, I asked him, like, I raised my hand, I asked her, like, isn't this supposed to be the most beautiful thing in the world? But if I honestly don't find it beautiful, what does that say, right? And then
Yeah.
the teacher said, "Well, you're not listening to it with your heart," or I don't know, some bullshit. Right?
Oh,
But that's still good because he didn't kick me out, because I was kicked out of class a couple of times for asking
no,
really fun
you
questions. But
never.
what?
You never.
Yeah, no, but this guy, at least he thought about it and came up with the answer and didn't kick me out, so that was nice.
Mm.
Yeah.
That-
Anyway, going back to the protest, so just to give you an understanding, some of the difference between this and 2000, some people think that the government didn't respond as brutally as 2009. But actually, if you do it as a percentage wise, some people are saying it was almost the same, right? As the percentage of people that have gotten or went to jail or died because of this. It's just it was smaller in scale, but percentage wise, they're saying some people are even suggesting, if you look at it that way, it's even worse, right?
oh wow.
Another thing they're saying, but total number wise, it's definitely less people got killed. Um, another difference is that it started in religious cities. That was very surprising, right? And also the class demographic wise, it started with poor people. The 2009 one started with more middle class people, right?
Right.
Another difference is that we got a lot better footage this time because more people had smartphones.
Yes.
um, Another thing is that the chants were a lot more extreme, and they were all over the place. Like there were people like, was this about religion? Was this about spending money on other countries than Iran? Was this about the economy? And my answer is all of the above. And for some people, this they didn't seem to understand this question, because for a lot of them, the source of all these problems are the same thing, right? So the people that are complaining about the fact that they don't have freedom, they don't have freedom of speech, they don't have secularism, they have so much religious control over their lives, they were complaining about the fact that a lot of the government seems to care about the Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and spreading their influence in these countries rather than spending money in Iran. And at the same time, they were upset about the fact that they're not making enough money and everything is getting more expensive. But the thing is that these were not, for a lot of them that I talked to, these weren't separate things. The fact is that these religious elites that are ruling the country, they are the ones that are enforcing these laws. And at the same time, because these people have this, um, in their view, is that they have this political goal to spread their use their Shia ideology to gain, use their proxies within the Shia communities all over the Middle East to gain control. And it seems like these people have a different agenda than the people. So it basically all goes down to having these clerics controlling the economy. I mean, if you think about it, like there's only 20% of Iran's economy could be considered really private, and a lot of these economy is also controlled in some one way or another by the IRGC, which is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, right? So the Sepah Pastaran, and in the budget that came out just recently before the protest, it showed that even though Rouhani, for example, promised that he would make a lot of changes, it seemed like the religious organizations and the IRGC were getting more funding than before, right? And a lot of subsidies were being cut. So, with like, what kind of changes are these? Some people also think that Rouhani leaked that on purpose,
Mm.
but maybe it backfired because and the main difference between the 2009 protests and this recent protest was that the 2009 protests were the reformists, people in the street backing the reformists against the conservatives, right?
Right.
This one was like, fuck all you all, right? This one of the most popular chants was like, um, what is this? A hardliners, reformists, your time is up. Like a lot of people seem to think that this reformist thing is just a false hope that is there when people are just getting it too tired of everything. They just give them hope. You have a reformist president, they come give you some promises and then nothing happens. So they're like, this whole reformist thing is just a show, it's just bullshit. you are all the same. The reformers and hardliners are just the puppets of the same um, Islamic regime, and we're just tired with this whole Islamic regime, whether you're reform. So that was very surprising, and a lot of reformists didn't support these protests because they found that surprising. They found that they're also being targeted, not just the hardliners.
Right.
Another major difference is that it seemed like it was very spontaneous, unlike what the government suggests, that there was a lot of that this is based on, like, I don't know, Mujahideen Khalq, which is the MEC group, or it was Saudi Arabia, or the Zionist, or United States. It seemed to be very spontaneous. It seemed to be leaderless. In 2009, there were political leaders within the government, so people were basically trying to back some political leaders against the other ones. This seemed to be just people
People that pissed off.
against people against all politicians. They were like, we just want you to go, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we just want this whole Islamic regime to. Even when Khatami, the former reformist president, when he came and he said, like, suggested that no, these people don't want to end. They don't want to. What is the word? Overturn? Like, no, what is this?
Overthrow.
Overthrow. Yes, they don't want to overthrow the regime. A lot of people, one of the most popular hashtags started running, which used barandism. It actually spread really fast, which means kind of, I want to overthrow, right? I'm an overthrower or something like that. A lot of people's like, no, we do want to overthrow. Don't, like, because he was suggesting, like, these people want changes. They don't want to end the government. They just want changes. And people are like, no, you completely misunderstood that. You're one of the reformists that is trying to suggest that we want reform. We don't want reform. We're tired of reform. We want this whole thing to be ended. Unfortunately, I don't think the problem is that I don't think it's going to happen.
Right.
A lot of people also get upset when I say that. A lot of Iranians say, like, because there's a lot of hope that these protests were going to lead to something. From the very beginning, I was said I'm very skeptical about ever for it to lead to anything. I mean, well, not any. It does lead to a lot of hopefully positive changes, but it will not overthrow the government, because, I mean, the government managed to completely shut down the whole thing very fast, and they didn't even use a fraction of the forces that they could. I remind people that this is the same government that has defeated ISIS in many battles that
Yeah.
even the United States couldn't. Not that they're more powerful than the United States. It's only because they have ground troops, they have higher presence, they're closer, they're allies with Iraq and Syria's government.
And the terrain and the culture a lot better as well.
Yeah, they have more they have built their they have built their networks for many years with different people in these territories, and these people have managed to defeat ISIS many times. And ISIS has guns, trucks, and many different weapons, and they defeat ISIS. But these people, they don't have any of that. Do you really think this government is not going to be able to stop
Yeah,
protests like that?
this is people burning effigies in the street. They don't have weapons and things like that.
Right, but not to say that these protests were not doesn't harm the government. These protests really does harm this government, right? This is a government that does care about its international image. They spend shitload of money on social media and their own procs. I met people in London that are responsible for spreading their propaganda. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
they have they really care about their international image, and especially because they need their ideology to become popular for their proxies to be able to take, like, the way Iran works is that they go and find for a place that is very Shia, and then they try to make their Shia pro Iran. A lot of Shias outside of Iran seem to think Iran is like a heaven for Shia, as long like it's like kind of like the Shia land. But
The only
um,
Muslim majority country that Shia, is it not?
yes,
Right.
it is. But when you see on the news that, holy shit, so many people are upset with the government of Iran within Iran, then that whole idea of, okay, if I'm Shia, I'm supposed to support Iran, that goes away, right? I mean, I'm surprised how successful they have been. Like, there are so many Shia non-Iranian Shias that would die for Khamenei. like
Yeah.
see this guy as their pope or whatever, right? And
Mm,
this is what they want. They want Khomeini, and Khomeini both wanted to become the pope of Shia Islam, right? But they never, you know, they never became fully successful. There are a lot of Shias that think like, oh, Shia Islam doesn't have a leader, right? Obviously, we are
mm,
just Shia, doesn't mean that we support this regime. But they also have been successful with more people than a lot of people assume, right? I mean, when when Baghdad fell and the new government came over, I was surprised to see how fast people started putting banners of Khomeini and Khamenei in Baghdad. I was like, holy shit! Khomeini's wet dream was to be able to invade Baghdad one day, right? And he
yes.
died, and he wasn't able to do that. But United States came and just gifted Iraq to Iran. Just took away Saddam, and Iran is like, oh, okay. And basically all the networking that they managed to do all these years and within the Shia government, within the Shia institutions within Iraq, just paid for itself, because as soon as Saddam was removed, but all these Shia people, went to the main power. I mean, a lot of people say like this is bullshit. Shia Islam doesn't have a pope figure, but they have to understand that nobody has managed to be able to so effectively manage this high number of followers, more than Khomeini and Khamenei. I
Right.
mean, it's no wonder where if you look at the influence that Iran is building an empire all over the Middle East, right? And they're using Shia Islam to do it. And
Interesting.
if you look where they are more influential, you could see it's exactly in line with their people's ideology. So people say this is political, not religious. Some people saying this is religious, not political. But they are so connected that I can't actually say
Well,
whether it's political. Yeah.
I can't remember if it was you or Ali who said that Islam and politics is virtually the same thing. Like you can't really take
Yeah.
one out the other because yes, Islam is a religion, but Islam is also a political ideology and
Well,
it's
it's more than just political. It's everything,
yeah,
right?
it's like
It's supposed to be everything, right? Islam
all
is supposed to be,
encompassing.
it's all encompassing. What you drink, what you eat, what you wear, how
Yeah,
to wipe your ass, how
really,
to
really
pray, what to
like
believe in, everything. So of course it's going to include politics, right? It's like, oh, Islam a political religion? I was like, Islam is an everything religion. It's
yeah,
supposed right, every as it you have there's nothing that it doesn't get itself involved in, right?
yeah,
But it's very useful. And actually the way Shia ideology in Islam is, the mythology works perfectly, because you have the Hussein story, which you have these poor oppressor Shias going against this Sunni tyrant.
yeah.
um it's every Shia minority in every Sunni government.
Mhm.
This whole ideology is just written itself for it to basically use people to be like, you feel like you're in Hussein's army again and rising up against the tyrant. It's the perfect, Iran used it when it was fighting against Saddam. They were using it when from the very beginning in the 1979 protests. This whole Hussein martyrdom ideology going against Shah, which was supposed. So you have Hussein, which is the good guy, and Yazid, which is the bad guy. And every time your Hussein and Yazid change, your Hussein will always stay the Shia minority,
Right.
and your Yazid will just switch from Shah in Iran to Saddam to then Saudi Arabia. So every time you're just switching the Yazid, but it's a perfect ideology. And this is why I'm actually kind of scared right now when I see in Vancouver so many Shia. I don't know. There's so many Shias now events growing. So the way you could work is like, you don't go and tell people like, hey, Iran or Khamenei. You first make sure Shiism spread. Then once Shiism spread, then a smaller percentage of that might now be sympathetic to Iran as a government, right? And then a smaller percentage of that might be able to be agents for Iran's government and its propaganda in that area, right? So you have Shias, then you have Iran sympathizers, and then you have Iran's agents, right? But you have to first have that big pool of Shia Islam for you to be able to find that, right?
Well, and she has always kind of been the underdog as far as sects go, because the Sunni always sort of had a slight upper hand, and they always
they were supposed to remain the underdogs until Imam Mehdi comes. So here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? So Sunnis and Shias, and they're completely opposite when it comes to who's supposed to be in power. I mean, at least it was like this until quite recently, right? So from the very beginning of Islamic history, Sunnis saw that, holy shit, we just got so much land and we become so powerful. So we must be on the right side of history. God must be on our side, right? Like, look at how fast we're growing. Like, we build an empire, right? So they were always this had this macho ideology, like whoever is the most powerful, God is on their side, right? And Shias, when from the very beginning, it was built their leaders, they were all poisoned and killed, and Hussein was killed in the most brutal way possible by the Caliph at that time. And they were always oppressed. So their ideology is like, no, the people that are on God's side, they are the ones who are oppressed, right? So and the Shias will never, we're never, so you should always be against the powerful. We're always the meek, we're always being oppressed, we're always being tested. And we're never going to get that power until Imam Mehdi, which is the 12th Imam of Shias, when he comes back. That's the end of times, and then he will make, we'll be in power.
Sounds almost like a Jesus figure.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their like every religion eventually builds their own Messiah thing. I mean, there are some themes that always keep in every religion keep happening over and over again. Like some other thing that Shias made that was missing in Sunni Islam was this female figure, because every religion kind of needs a mother to worship to, not just a father. So they made Fatima as a holy figure. Just like Catholics, they noticed that they don't have a female to pray to, so they made Mother Mary holy, even though there's nothing in the Bible that made her holy.
Fatima was Muhammad's daughter, yes?
Right, yeah. So
eldest daughter, if I recall.
Well, no, I mean, depends on different. No, yeah, according to us, only daughter. According to Shias.
Okay. Yeah.
So
for some reason, he had other daughters, though, didn't he?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Oh.
All right, but Shias, Fatima.
I only read the 2 biographies you suggested.
Yeah, well, that most people go with the Sunni narrative, right?
Of course,
right? Because the thing is that even though Shias are only like 15% of all Muslims, they got a lot of the oil-rich and gas-rich areas, right? So even in Saudi Arabia, the oils are under the Shia parts of Saudi Arabia. That's why Saudi Arabia was panicking when the Islamic Revolution in Iran happened, because Khomeini hates Iran. Right. Khomeini never wanted the Islamic Revolution in Iran to be a national Iranian revolution. He wanted to be an Islamic revolution. He wasn't content with Iran. He wanted to go with Saudi Arabia and then Iraq, and then he wanted to go all the way to Jerusalem. But anyways, let me go back to what I was saying. I was saying, okay, so it was supposed to. Shia Islam was supposed to always not be in power, right? And Sunnis were supposed to be like, we're always in power. But then 2 things happened. First of all, Sunnis lost their last caliphate, right? After so they're like, what the fuck is going on? Isn't God? Why are we so weak now? Why is the West so powerful? Why are we like, aren't we supposed, if we're on God's side, we shouldn't be this weak right now, right? So a lot of the answers to that was like, maybe we went away from God's following God. Some people are like, so there was 2 answers to that. Some people are like, we have to follow the West model, we have to modernize all that stuff. And other people are like, no, actually, this is why we are weak, because we moved away from the path of God.
Back to the 7th century, baby.
We should, because that was what was working. We were powerful when we were following God's plan, right? Anyways, but that, I'm not going to judge how accurate that is, because they weren't. But following God.
why there was, after the 78 revolution, there was that religious resurgence and things became more strict religiously?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at a lot of the extremist literature, you could see that they always say like, we need to, this is why we're weak, because we forgot our way, right? So the Sunnis had to re-examine their ideology and their ways, and the Shias also had to re-examine theirs, because the 1979 revolution, now they were like, okay, wait a minute, we are now ruling. We're not supposed to be ruling, like, right? Because Shia Islam, you can't be in the government until Imam Zaman comes back, right? But Khomeini had his Velayat Faqih narrative. This is why a lot of people call it Khomeinism, which is a new way of looking at Shia Islam, right? So basically, there are supposed to be these certain groups of people that hold on to the government for the Imam Zaman, for the 12 Imam, until he comes back, right? So
Right.
this is the problem with magic, right? You could just, when you're using magic, these mythology to explain things, you could just, I mean, this is why I'm against this whole reform things, because a lot of people are like, hey, like, we could have religion as long as it's secular. And some Shias say, like, look, Shia Islam is supposed to be not in power, so they're supposed to be not mixed with government, so that's good, that goes along with secularism. But I tell them, look how easy it is to just change everything, right? As soon as you have this guy with apparently supposed to be a fucking scholar and he has some legitimacy, like, no, we looked at it the wrong way. My magical book says that we're supposed to be in power. So I'm just saying, as long as your source of your conclusions is bullshit, I don't care if you came to conclusions that we agree with or not, it's still bullshit. You just happen to come with the right conclusion. Tomorrow you might come up with the
And all it
right.
takes is somebody with the right amount of charisma to convince people that they've been doing it wrong and they need to do it a different way.
But the thing is that if these reformists use Islam to come up with secularism, gay rights, women rights, but the thing is, I'm saying you're standing on bullshit, right? And if you're still using that bullshit to come up with good values, that bullshit could still be used to come up with bad values. I'm just saying, forget all this Islam. We have to examine the root, not just, we can't just like clap our hands and be like, hey, congratulations, now you support gay rights. You still believe in bullshit, and you're endorsing a bullshit that could be used for other harmful things. You go on.
We should be supporting things like gay rights and women's rights and things, because that in of itself is a good thing, not because we think our book tells us to.
Right, but I'm saying I think we shouldn't. If somebody says I support gay rights because my God tells me to support gay rights, I'm not going to support that person, because I'm saying, well, then you're not realizing yourself why you should support.
Right? You may not even support that yourself. You're just doing it because you don't want to go to hell.
And you're endorsing something. You're endorsing something that tomorrow could be used for against gay rights. Right? You're endorsing a book that could be used for. I mean, it's just the same. Like, hey, I think in Harry Potter chapter 3, this book says this. That's why I believe that, right? So, and even if it's a good thing, I'm like, what? I'm not gonna, clap for you. I'm not gonna be like, hey, that's good. I'm gonna be like, you're out of your mind. What the fuck are you talking about, right? Exactly. I'm not gonna endorse that just because you came up with a good conclusion. Because if you're using that as your source of ethics, then it's just random, right? And you could be, anyways.
For sure. So now we were talking a little bit last week or so ago, and at that time, even as I said, that this hadn't really been talked about in the mainstream news for a little while. But one thing, you've been really keeping an eye on things, and what I loved is you were trying to get the message out and tweeting things and translating a lot of tweets and things that were coming out of Iran, so that people like myself who don't speak anything but English could get an idea. And you were saying that now that things have died down somewhat, the issue is that a lot of these protesters are being targeted, right?
Right, but I mean, Iran does care about its international image, and that's why they were maybe waiting a little bit to for the media coverage to go away before they decide what to do with these prisoners.
Right.
And that's why I'm telling people to please keep sharing these stories, because you sharing it does make a difference. It make sure you keep following up what's happening to the prisoners, what their conditions are, who's being killed, on what charges, I mean, um you know
Well,
it's just when the news dies, that's when the government starts taking action. So please don't let the story
and
die. I mean, it's already died, but I don't know.
as we saw in our Canadian news just yesterday,
Mm.
there was he's an Iranian Canadian citizen, right? The professor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, he was
Uh,
just he was actually I saw a picture of him just hiking just close to Vancouver. Like, it's a very
oh
popular hiking.
wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a Canadian Iranian citizen who I forget what he was a professor of, but he was an academic,
Mm.
and he was thrown in jail, and they got word that he, quote, committed suicide in jail, which you and I both know is bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it's very unlikely. His name is Kavu Sayed Emami, and he was a professor. He's a Canadian. He's dual citizen like me, Iran and Canada, and he was the head of Persian Heritage Wildlife Foundation. And actually, it wasn't just him that got arrested. Everybody, a lot of people in his office. I don't know why they're going after environmentalists right now. They're arresting them,
Weird.
and they accused him of being a spy, which is one of their favorite accusations whenever they don't like somebody.
Mm.
And this, they say that, and he died in custody, and they saying it was a suicide. And the weird thing is that this is the third time in the past 40 days that people have died in prison in Iran, and they saying it was suicide. Um,
Even if, which is highly unlikely, it was suicide, what kind of a shit prison system do they have that people are able to just off themselves willy-nilly like that?
Yeah, yeah, and this guy apparently her family were like, this guy was definitely not. His family are saying this guy was definitely not suicidal, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I mean, you never know. I mean, the last person that they say committed suicide, he was telling his family that they're giving us pills, um, and just making me feel sick, and then and actually a lot of people in Iran, some people, they when somebody dies in prison, and they say they committed suicide, people on Twitter, Iranians, they say "خودکشیش کردن," which means they suicided him, right? Which,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
instead of yeah, but it's just so
Euphemism.
bizarre. A lot of people in, I mean, they a lot of these people that died, they request to for investigation to come do some autopsy, but they say they deny that. I mean, why are they hiding these things, right?
Yeah.
A lot of
If it's
um
suicide, if it's legitimately a suicide, you should be saying, yes, please come autopsy this person so
yeah.
that you can see and tell everybody that, yes, it was a suicide.
And there's cameras everywhere in the prison too, right? And actually, some of the MPs went to Evin prison to actually, the last person that called quote unquote suicide. They said we can show you that he did commit suicide, and they went and they watched some recordings, and they came out and said actually the videos didn't show him at all. They didn't show anything, right?
Uh,
So they said they had hard evidence that these people that were evidence that committed suicide, but when the MP said, like, we actually went and watched the videos and we didn't see anything that showed that this was a suicide, right?
suicide.
Yeah, and it's weird that, I mean, how they have access, how do they keep committing suicide? Like, yes, yeah, I don't
Like,
know.
with what?
They
What are
don't
they
tell us. They don't tell us. They just say, like,
not?
oops, another suicide.
Yeah. So it honestly, it really doesn't matter. So if there's any Iranian officials listening, you're still shitty, even if they were committing suicide, which we don't believe.
Right.
So
And
yeah.
here's one thing is kind of sad is that the Canadian government is not responding that fast enough. I mean, this is your citizen.
I
Be-
know. That's not
yeah,
cool. Like the
yeah,
minute they why are we not hearing that he was even arrested? Like we didn't even hear anything in the news like Canadian citizen arrested. It's like,
right,
oh, and he's dead. Well, where the fuck were you when he was arrested in the first place?
right.
Know? Like for instance, to contrast, the white girl that got arrested for dirty dancing in Cambodia,
Mm.
she got her ass brought back home and she was facing something ridiculous like 5 years in prison because they considered it lewd dancing to be creating pornography.
Yeah,
Even though she was fully, I mean, her situation was ludicrous, but she's back in Canada and all over the news because she's a cute white girl. And this Iranian academic dies in prison, and it's just kind of a blip, and that's it. It's
yeah.
sad to
By the way,
me.
I tweeted at Justin Trudeau. I said, please investigate this. So far, it got 600 retweets. So whoever retweeted that,
Oh, good.
I tweeted it on February 11. So I hope somebody at least some news get some news coverage. If whoever retweeted that, I'm surprised that that got 600 retweets because it was specifically about this one guy. So I'm grateful to whoever did that. So thank you,
I
people.
think people get concerned when it's one of our citizens, like you said, and the government doesn't seem to be paying any attention because even though he was an Iranian Canadian, lots of Canadians travel to foreign countries. And I think maybe people think, well, what if I get into trouble in some foreign country? Is Trudeau going to sit on his ass and, you know, play with stupid word jokes instead or what?
Well, yeah, I mean, if they might have responded more if it wasn't an Islamic country, I guess. But the thing is that I'm not suggesting that he deserves more protection because he was also a Canadian citizen, right? Because all people are equal, but at
Right.
the same time, when you're a Canadian citizen, you have hired your government to protect you, right?
Right.
This is not something that, I mean, you're like, well, what about those other people that were Iranian but not Iranian Canadian, right? But I'm just saying, but at the same time, if this is more about you,
That's
if you're a Canadian government and this is a Canadian citizen, it's not that he has more rights, it's that now, no, it's you have been elected, it's your job, we
yes.
have hired you to protect us, so please do your fucking job, kind of
It would be the
situation.
same thing if it was a British citizen and tweeting at Theresa May. Same thing. Like,
Right.
take your fucking job, take care of your citizen. Like the minute the minute a foreign national is accosted or arrested in a foreign country, that person's government should be saying, "Yo, what's up with my citizen? What are you doing? Why are they arrested?" You know, all of those
Right.
things.
Right.
Instead of just, oh well, I guess they must have broke the law or whatever they did. And this is one of my beefs with Trudeau is he's I mean he's all smiles and photo ops, but when it comes down to the nitty
Funny
gritty,
waves.
he's a bit of a pussy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I voted for him, but it seems like he's
I did
pretty.
not. I did not
He's
vote for
taking
him.
the PC culture too way too seriously, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
that last thing that he said apparently was a joke, the person
Oh,
kind thing.
yeah.
But still, it seems like, I don't know, when I don't know, when they talked about why are you bringing ISIS back to Canada without putting them to jail, he started comparing them to Italian immigrants, right? I like, we're not okay.
Yes.
We didn't even say Muslim immigrants. We said fuck. We said ISIS, all right? Like, we didn't. I
Yeah.
mean, even if you want to be PC, like, at least compare Muslims to
I
Italian.
don't know of any Italian immigrants that were gung ho about chopping
No,
people. heads off.
I mean, I think even Muslims should be offended by that, because the question was specifically about ISIS members, not about like not even Muslim immigrants, right? So,
He's actually
and he was like, I think diversity is good and we benefit. We're like, we're not. Hey, okay. Even PC people can't. Even social justice warriors can't. I shouldn't be accepting of this, because they at least will say like, hey, bringing Muslims. But we're specifically asking you about ISIS, and you're talking about diversity. Oh my God.
yeah, we want to be so diverse. We're gonna take those ISIS guys and have them train the RCMP or some shit.
Oh my God.
Uh,
And
I
yeah.
don't agree with just like some people are saying, oh, we should just kill them. I'm like, no,
No,
bring
you
them
need due
back,
process.
throw,
You can kill them if they're pointing a gun at you, or if they're raiding a village or something.
yeah,
Then
yeah,
kill them. But if you're arresting somebody, then you need due process. You
that's
need
right. Put them
don't
on trial, convict them of being a terrorist in a
and
foreign
study
country.
them.
Yeah,
These are cases. You have to figure out
find out why the fuck did you go to Syria and
Hmm.
join these crazy
Yeah,
bastards?
because I'm pretty sure if you study these people, you will notice that it has a lot to do with Islam, and you need to keep on. If you have you have to have these people here to be able to have academics come and question them and talk to them, so that we know what the root of the problem is, so that
That's
we could address it better, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, the other thing I was noticing, I don't know if they were ones that you shared or not, but I was seeing some tweets and Instagram posts now of people who had been arrested and are now showing pictures of where they were beaten and whipped and things.
Right. Yeah.
So they're
Yeah. Go ahead.
torturing people.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised they're posting the pictures, because they're like, hey, because they just got lashes on their back, and now they're posting the pictures. Like, aren't they afraid to go back to where they came from posting these pictures? Like, these people
Well,
seem to have really, I mean, I'm pretty sure he wasn't showing his face, right? But I'm
right.
pretty sure whoever lashed him will recognize the pattern on his back, because
Yeah, that's a
he
good
spent a
point.
lot of time on, yeah.
That's that
Um,
guy because I remember that crisscross over there. I was really proud of that.
right.
And some of these fuckers will be like that. I'm
And the lashing, I heard about these before I say it, because when I was in Iran, I remember here's what happened to us in Iran. Like, a lot of times when my parents were very liberal and they were part of the upper class, so we went to parties and they drank alcohol all the time. And a lot of times the cop would stop them, and the cop would be like, "Hey, I smell alcohol. Like, what the fuck?" And my dad would just grab his wallet and just pay the man, and we would go off home. And as a kid, I thought, okay, that's what everybody does. The cop stops you, smell alcohol, you pay the money, you go home. But then I didn't know, like, I lived in my own social bubble, right? This is why a
yeah,
lot of Iranians that are part of the liberal social upper class, they come here and they say, like, oh, everything is fine there. We're all party. It's even better than here. It's just that they're all living their own bubble, right?
yes.
But one time our maid's brother got arrested, and he didn't have the luxury to pay the cop, so he got lashed 80 times on his back, right?
Oh,
And our maid told us that they actually start on your back and they don't stay there, because they know what after a while uh,
it's
it
destroyed.
gets numb, because it destroys the nerve endings. So then they go down to your legs, they want to make sure that you
It
feel
all.
every one of them, right? So when these pictures came out and I saw that there were a couple on the back, and then the rest was on the legs, back of your legs, and like,
Yeah.
oh, this is exactly what our maid told us. So I was recognized that as like, yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I saw that.
Oh, that's
But
freaking.
yeah,
But
it's
yeah, it is a lot different. And to you, you probably figured the paying off the cop was the punishment for drinking, and
right. Yeah,
that's it. Off you
yeah,
go.
yeah. Off you go. Yeah, and yeah, as the thing is that different rules apply to different people, right? But
Oh,
depending on what, yeah, uh,
absolutely.
yeah, depending on who you know and who you're connected to.
Well, it's like that in most places, but it's more pronounced, I think, in totalitarian regimes.
Right. And actually to that point, it's good that you say that is more like that there, because every time I tweet about these situations there, I see so many I'm sorry to say, fucking idiots, annoying people that come and say like, "Oh, it's just like that in the United States. Oh, we have it the same here. Oh, you think it's worse?" I'm like, shut the fuck up, okay? Like seriously, shut the fuck up. I can go, or like people say, "Oh, Trump is gonna make it like this in the United States. It's coming." Like, no. As bad as Trump is, as bad as Pence, these religious conservatives are, don't you fucking dare tell me that it's even close to what you
That's what
have to.
they may like to be able to do,
I
but
would no, not even like, not even like. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, let's say a religious lunatic like Pence, okay,
yeah,
that
yeah,
thinks that you could do shock therapy to cure gay people, right?
yes.
I bet, as disgusting as this guy is, if you give him full power, I would bet money that he wouldn't go ahead and execute gay people. Okay?
Maybe not. There are some that I know absolutely would
I
because
know, but I would say less, like you have to really look for
and I think
people that think that it's you can execute. Yeah.
yeah. Well, part of that I think maybe is that they've grown up knowing that that's not widely acceptable.
So
But
no,
when
but I think because they grew up like that, it's also part of their morality that that's not acceptable,
right, right,
right?
you grow up
But
these
I'm not endorsing these religious
oh
freaks.
no,
I'm just
oh no,
saying it's not the same now, and it wouldn't even be the same if they had full power.
because the people that grow up in a bona fide totalitarian regime where killing for the state is acceptable in
Mm.
that way, they're not going to have that moral constraint the same
Right.
way. And I think you do have a point there. It's
I
questionable.
think these people just are. Some of these people are jealous of how bad Iran has it because they want to complain about their own situation. They have this victimhood narrative, and if you're like, hey, look at this human rights crisis here, like, oh, they're not paying attention to my situation being fucked. So like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah,
it's just as bad here. And like, first of
it's
all, even if it was just as bad in United States, shut the fuck up. Go talk about, like, why do you have to talk about, is this is a competition? Is this a competition? We're talking, it's like someone saying like, hey, we have to raise money for AIDS, and people are like, hey, cancer is an issue too. Well, go fucking raise money for cancer. This is an AIDS fundraiser, you
yeah.
fucker. Like, you know, oh
And
my
it's like I know in Mexico, for instance, police corruption is widespread, and in Mexico, the average Joe, if you have the money, oftentimes you can pay off a cop, but you're not going to get killed generally by a Mexican cop unless he's part of a cartel. But I'm just talking average people here. They're not going to go and take you to jail and beat the fuck out of you
Right.
or
Okay. Like there are other countries that are worse. Like there are very unsafe countries in South America that you could get
yes,
killed by drug cartels, right? So, but here's what I'm not gonna do. If somebody is coming and saying like, "Hey, drug cartels are a huge issue in my country. Some of the police, they're paying the police, they're paying the politician. This is a tragedy. We need to fix this." I'm not gonna come like, hey, we have the same. Iran is also bad. Like, oh, hey, North Korea is also bad. Hey, Saudi Arabia. Why the fuck this? What does
yeah.
that got to do with this guy? Like,
It's
this guy is raising
what
awareness about it. Why does it have like because I'm from Iran, I have to redirect the attention to a situation that
no, 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 no.
I'm raising awareness about. Like, why is that? Why are you compete? This is not a competition, right?
It's when I criticize Islam, I get some twat going, "What about Christianity?"
Yeah.
Or or when I criticize Christianity, I'm like, oh, you just love Islam, don't you? It's like, fuck off. I'm talking about a specific one this time, okay? Like, go to the anti-Christian thread over there and tell me how shitty Christians are. I'm talking.
You know what? You should let them like, okay, tell me about Christianity. And then when they tell you, like, oh, why are you not talking about Hinduism? And then when they are like, okay, fine, all religion. Then I have to be like, okay, then why just religion? Why not all dogma? Like, okay, fine, all dogma. Like, oh, really? Then why just all dogma? Why just not all bad ideas? Like, okay, fine, not all bad ideas. Like, oh, really? Just bad ideas? Why not bad everything? Look, just make it fully general. Why bad things are bad, good things are good? Is that general enough for you? Just make it as useless as just being the more generalized you make. Yeah, okay. Sometimes it makes sense to be specific. Sometimes it makes sense to be general. Sometimes you want to focus on all dogma. Sometimes you want to focus on religion. Sometimes you want to focus on a specific cult in this specific village in this specific country, right? You know, because it has its own problems. It raises its own issues. It has its own cost. It has damaging people in a certain way, and it has its own specific solutions.
That's right.
You want to be very specific to this very cult at this village in the fucking in Indonesia. That's your now you're talking about this, and you know, oh my god, I just don't get it why people have to always somebody coined the term oppression Olympics, right? The people can like so they just are like, as soon as you talk about an oppression issue that they're not involved with, they have to bring attention to the fact that you're not paying attention to their victimhood narrative.
It's also called whataboutism.
I
hate that shit. So another thing too that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like is a bit different with this round of protests is the presence and real voice of women this time. You're seeing and famously the first woman who stood up on a cement thing and waved her hijab on a stick.
A telecom box, I think.
Telecom box. Okay. And I loved, and Beth did too, the video that you tweeted with the old woman who stood up on the I think it was
that
was so beautiful. This little lady, she like hauls herself up on this piece of cement and rips off her hijab and swinging it around, and she's like she's got a cane and she's bent over and she's still like, fuck that hijab. You know, it was just amazing to see. And also, by the way, that was the first time I realized that Iran gets snow. I
actually get surprised when people are surprised that there's snow in Tehran, because
you think of Iran as Middle East, and us snowheads, I guess, would think of Middle East equals hot. So
no. No, I actually got it was a little cringy how many people said, like, why is there snow in Tehran? I was like, they had to cancel school on us a whole bunch of times because of the snow. Like that.
So you actually might find it more temperate where you are out in DC than it was in Iran.
Well, I mean, the thing is, well, Tehran depends on where in Iran you're saying. Shiraz, for example, never got snow, but
right.
Tehran gets. I mean, I don't know if even Shiraz, if it got snow, it was like, what the fuck, we got snow, like it was a huge event, right? So but Tehran gets snow every winter, and sometimes you can't even get your car out because when you open the garage door, it's just full of snow. So that's how, but also its summers are fucking hot as well. So
but this time around, so there's been another notable.
But some people were saying this is fake because there's snow, and how could this be snow in Tehran? Like, oh shit! Like, people are like, this is fake. Are you kidding me? Snow in Tehran?
Honestly,
like, really?
I can kind of see that. I mean, now my thought process was, damn, I didn't know there was snow in Iran, but it's Armin, so I can trust that it's real.
But then, like, people like, oh my god, and that made me so and that when I saw that somebody saying this is fake, there's no subtitle, I like, I wish I met you in person. I could slap
Can
you in
I
the face.
stick your face in a snowbank?
No, no,
But
no, yeah, but yeah.
the women thing I think is pretty significant because that's been kind of a criticism of Iran for a long time is the mandatory hijab law because I think Saudi's the only other place that has that. Is that
Well,
right?
I don't think Saudi has that for foreign women, does it?
I don't know.
Like, if you're a foreigner in Saudi Arabia, you don't have to wear the hijab.
Okay, I did not know. Well, I'm not allowed there because I'm a terrorist, apparently. Anyway, so
But I'm not. But I think that's the case. Correct me if. Let me. Can we actually check that real quick?
fact check.
I don't think they do. Um.
No, this is where we need background music.
No, this is good because I think Iran is the only country where every woman has to wear hijab, no matter where the fuck they're from. You know how some Europeans went to Iran
Yeah,
and people were like, "Oh, why are they wearing a hijab?" And like, yeah, I don't think I have a choice. Like, I wasn't very as critical as with them as those as other people because they won't. So Saudi Arabia.
okay, now what I'm seeing here, now this is from The Economist, so I don't know, but it just says, while all versions of Islam suggest a woman should dress modestly, often covering her hair and body, Saudi Arabia is one of the only Muslim majority countries that legally imposes a dress code. Iran is the other. On women, foreign and local, must wear an abaya.
Oh, really? Oh, abaya.
Abaya. Okay. Well, that's suck. I'd almost rather wear a hijab than a fucking abaya. And for those of you that don't know,
Well,
abaya is
abaya
that
is
big
sorry,
is
go ahead.
it's almost like a big long overcoat, which
Really, I didn't know that about Saudi Arabia. I thought if you're a foreigner, I was told if you're a foreigner, you don't have to wear a hijab unless you're in.
now see another one that's now I don't know what kind of website this is. It just says internations.org, but it says wearing a veil is not required for non-Saudi, non-Muslim women.
Right, there you go.
Yeah, but you might
Okay.
want to carry a headscarf with you in case you're asked to cover your hair.
Right, so that makes sense.
Foreign
So
women
that
arriving in Saudi who do not have an abaya to call their own may be able to borrow one at their hotel.
okay, so there you go. So that makes Iran the only country where hijab is mandatory for every woman above age 9. Okay.
Damn.
Um,
I'm short. Maybe I could get by with saying I'm 8. I don't know. You've seen me.
I mean, I know a lot of girls that were a little bit older than 9, but they kept on not wearing hijab because you can't tell if they're 9 or not, right?
Right.
So until it's obvious that you're not 9. But
Once you start, now what happens if you're like 8 and you start growing boobs? Like, will they be like, no, you have to wear it?
I
Do
don't
you
know. I didn't have a sister, so I didn't have. I don't know what the experience was, but I do know that it changed a lot since 1979. Like, my mom got arrested early after the revolution because her hijab was red, too colorful. Right, but now it's way different. Now most hijabs, a lot of hijabs in Iran are colorful, like, so it's a little bit more relaxed, right? But some fake news came out close to the protest, which was very bad. Some people were spreading it that hijab is no longer mandatory in Iran, which is, when
Oh,
I saw that news, I was like, this can't be real. And then when we looked into it, it was true. It was fake. It was true that
you're
it
right.
was fake news.
That is dangerous because somebody could be, going to Iran on business or some shit and be like, oh, I don't have to wear a hijab and then get arrested.
Well, no, I mean, if you're a foreigner, you just be told and then you'll wear a hijab. They don't. I mean, but the thing, I think what the danger that I'm talking about was the fact that people were spreading that fake news, And we were right after this girl took off her hijab, and we were trying to spread the news about her, and people kept on posting articles like, "What are you talking about?
Oh, it's
What
like not a
what are
thing.
it's
It's
not a thing in Iran anymore. Look at this news." And we're like, "No, it's fake news. Iran still hijab is still mandatory. Please stop." And that because it was hurting her activism and people
right,
sharing it, because people saying
right.
like, "What's the big deal? She took off her hijab. It's not mandatory anymore."
That's
And like,
that's
yeah,
extremely bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, Majid Nawaz kept on spreading that as well, and we kept on tweeting at him to please take it down. He never took it down.
Oh goodness.
Yeah,
Why you would think he would know better?
yeah. I think never mind, but it's okay.
Whole other topic. Yep.
Yeah, but
And
she got arrested. She
arrested.
was held in prison for a few days, for a few weeks, and then she was let go. I think because of the amount of attention she got. But now 30 other women got arrested for doing the same thing. But this is why I'm saying give them the attention they deserve, because the first one is released, I think. Not sure because of the amount of attention they got, but the other ones are not getting the same amount of attention. So
And
they're
what
going
you
to
were
stay in
saying
jail.
about how Iran cares about its image internationally, if people are going around saying, well, look at those assholes, they throw women in jail over a piece of cloth, like what the fuck is wrong with you?
Mm.
There it could influence how they decide to proceed with that. And that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that they have a lot of flexibility, right? Because they don't really follow their own laws. Like a lot of their laws say that, oh, every prisoner has to have a lawyer, and we know that doesn't happen. Like a lot of people
Right.
kept in jail for a very long time without ever seeing a lawyer. Like, oh, people shouldn't be tortured in prison. That's their own law. They do get tortured in prison. So their hijab laws, like that second lady, the Hosseini girl, when she was got in prison, she when she got sentenced, she got a fine that was way above what it says on their own fucking laws. So it's like this is all over the place, right? So it doesn't really matter what they have written down in their own constitution or their own laws. They just decide what they want to do based on the political climate and the
Right.
international climate at the time, and who and they react to it, right? And if the reaction to the and if they're getting a lot of international attention about this, they're going to arrest less people. I mean, when they go out to obviously anybody, so you have to decide, am I going to go bother girls that have bad hijab, very bad hijab, just little, am I going to just give them a warning, am I going to arrest them? It depends on the situation that you're in at the time, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they have a lot of flexibility on what they do, and that's why this attention to these cases matter. Mhm.
What it makes it kind of ridiculous to me is like the whole idea of this hijab is protecting women because they're just too sensual to have running around uncovered. And yet I looked at that little old woman, and while she was absolutely inspirational, I don't think she's like Playboy material. You know what I'm saying? She little hunched over granny.
I saw a girl that was they were having there was this girl that this religious lady came to her, and they were interviewing her, and she was saying, I don't think hijab should be mandatory. And this religious guy came in, and he's like, let me give you an example. The favorite example, like, do you want if you have a wrapped candy and
Candy.
compare it to a candy that is open and there's flies all around it, which one would you rather have? And this girl, um her response to that religious guy, this was in Iran, I have to find that video, that was a very good video. He said, you're insulting yourself by comparing yourself
Flies.
to flies. Like, are you suggesting that men are like flies?
That's awesome. I have to
Yeah.
remember that. I,
Yeah.
I I get I get told that analogy off and on when I'm
Yeah.
debating people. I have to remember
Like,
that.
yeah, basically woman is like a used product or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's both.
Kind of
And
what I've heard is a cell phone case, oh, you put a case on your cell phone because you value it.
I had this Iranian people, religious Iranians, who like, what the fuck is the big deal? It's very cold. Even if I didn't have a scarf, if it was mandatory, I would put it on just because it was cold, right? And I
Yeah.
like, you guys don't get it. It's not just about the fucking scarf, right? It's not about the hijab. Like, here's an example I just recently thought of. Let me know if you think this is a good example or not, right? Let's say you come to my home, right? And we're standing and talking. Me and you are standing, and my wife is also standing and talking, right? And I look, while we're talking, I look at the dishes and I say the dishes are not clean. I tell my wife, you didn't clean the dishes. Go sit in that corner for 50 minutes and just sit there. That's the corner you're going to sit in, right? And you go sit there on the ground, right? Just sit there, right? And then think about the fact that you didn't do the dishes. And then me and you continue speaking, right? Would you? The thing is that somebody might come like, hey, what's the problem with that? You guys were standing. I actually would have rather sat down also because I'm tired. Like, no, you don't get it. If you're if in this if as the husband I get to tell my wife to just go sit there, like, because
do what I wanted,
because you're not, what does that say about my position in this family and her position and her role and how she's valued in this household? What does that say about that, right? So basically, women, they see this veil as a symbol of everything anti-woman in Iran. If you tell women that you have to wear this because you're a woman and this is a rule that applies to you, right? You are, you're just putting them in a position. It's like shackles, right? Basically, it's kind of like the Star of David for Jews, right? If you decide, if you're telling Jews that this is a symbol you wear, like, oh, what's the problem with that? It's just a star.
It says two things in my estimation. Number one, it says that women are just all whores, and anytime she gets proposition, she would fuck whoever it is. And secondly, it says that men are uncontrollable animals that literally want to fuck.
But even before that, let's say even if you believe that and you suggested to people to that, therefore you should wear hijab. You didn't force them. I think that's still way before you actually being able to tell women that you have to, that you don't have a choice. This is what you're gonna wear because I say so. That shows what the position of women are in this country.
That's right.
And for a lot of women, this is a symbol of everything else anti-women in this country. It's not just about the hijab. It's about this country not accepting their rights. It's about all the laws and everything, all the position. It's about the fact that they don't have any say in the government. They don't have any representation in government. That everything else is anti-women. This symbolizes all of that. Yeah.
In Iran, do they have voting rights and property rights and things, or no?
Yes, but it's still discriminatory. For example, you get half of your brothers if right. So
the Quran,
and and it's if your witness your testimony is worth half of a man. You don't get to travel to other countries without your permission of your husband. There's a whole bunch of different things that when it comes to workplace, you don't get the same positions. When it comes to politics, you don't get the same positions. Even when you if you, like, for example, just recently there was a whole bunch of girls that died in a fire in a school, and the money that they were paid to the parents were half of what they would have gotten paid if there were boys that were burned to death. Right? Yeah. So and it's weird. So
it's the whole idea of the way Islam and Christianity and Judaism, they treat women like they're toddlers, basically.
Worse than toddlers. Property.
property. Well, yes, property, but as far as their intellectual capacity, they're treated
Right.
like toddlers. Yeah, toddlers that are your property, basically, like a pet, like a fucking dog,
Right.
right? Because
Well, not
animals.
toddlers. The boys get little.
Well,
If you're a boy and you're a toddler,
but they
you have
treat
more
it like
value.
their ability to think for
So
themselves
if
has
you
never
if you
developed.
if you study hadith and if you study the Quran, I think once you start seeing who gets what rights, I
Yeah,
think the hierarchy will go like this: free man first
yeah,
of all, right? Then free woman,
yeah,
then free Muslim man, then free Muslim woman, then free non-Muslim Christian or Jew, then free non-Muslim, non-male Muslim or Jew, then free non-Muslim Christian or Jew female,
right,
then slave men, and
right,
then slave. That's hierarchy, I think.
wow, that's brutal. And slave woman, slash sex slave and or.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Yep. Oh, I know. Like we've been talking a bit because I read those biographies of Muhammad, and I've been doing my show now, reading I'm almost 50 surahs in. What a piece of shit. And I picked the Pickthall translation, but
Mhm.
oh, it's horrible. I'm kicking myself. I'm like, damn, I should have done the Ali translation because Pickthall is like the King James Bible.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And when you're reading that out loud cold, oh fuck.
yeah.
The retakes are there's one I'll have to play it for you later when I did last week's show. Because I don't, if I don't know the stuff ahead of time, I don't read it ahead of time, right?
Right.
And so I got to a verse where I can say it now because I practiced it, but I got to the word produceth and I'm
Oh.
like, produce it, like 5 times. And I finally get it. And the very next word was reproduceth. I was like, oh, fuck.
You know, this is when it helps for English when English is not your first language. So whenever you fuck up, I like, hey, English is not my first language, so I have an
No,
excuse.
it's
So,
like, hey, man,
so
you speak, was it Persian, right?
yes, yes.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I speak
Yeah,
Persian. I'm
but
like,
this if I've been in Canada for 13 years and my English was still good when I was before I even came here, I'm always gonna still use that
yeah,
excuse. I like whenever I like misspell something or can't pronounce something or
I
right, like,
have,
hey, English is my first language, so
I have
whatever.
almost as good as an excuse. I was raised by rednecks. See, there.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
It almost works, but oh man, your English is virtually perfect. Like I know you have kind of an accent, but I don't know if it's an Iranian accent because I know you've been a bit of a globetrotter, so it could be just sort of an amalgamation of things you've heard. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's yours is a unique accent. I've never heard anything quite like it. But that's good though. I laughed though. I saw your video. I know it's a little bit off topic, but it was 2 or 3 weeks ago when that dude in your apartment building called you racist and he's Iranian. I was like, the fuck, buddy?
Yeah. I thought when I told him that I'm Iranian, he's gonna drop the racism allegation, but he doubled down.
I
And then
know.
like, hey, dude, I'm the same fucking place. I come from the same place as you.
Especially you start talking Persian and
Yeah,
he doesn't even miss a beat. He's like calling you racist in Persian. You're like, what the
yeah,
fuck is wrong with this guy?
yeah. But then when he saw his video, he brought a bottle of wine for me the other day and
Well,
he asked me
that's
to take it.
good. Good.
He asked me to please take it down, so I did.
Oh, wow. I'm glad I saw it then.
Yeah.
It's like things Armin has to put up with.
No, it was weird because when I was telling him he's being loud at 2 a.m. and then he started calling me racist, I was like, what like, oh wow, this happens in the real world as well. Like is this my like is this really that common? This racism allegation? This is my Twitter feed in my hallway. Like my
Congratulations, Armin. He's just turned you into a whitey.
No, it's funny because actually when I told him I'm Iranian, then he started asking me how long have I been here, because I
Yes,
think he was because I think he was basically trying to suggest that if I've been here long enough, then I'm white enough to be able to be racist.
yeah, that's totally where he was going with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Oh geez. Yeah, we got a bit of time. Yeah, I was just gonna say, my friend Dave was over in the chat and he just wanted to say that he said, Hi Armin, I'm Dave Davidson on LinkedIn, love Atheist Republic posts. So there you go.
Oh, thank you, David.
Uh, so, um, so we've had a bunch of women that have been arrested. Have we heard anything more? Um, like, are they being beaten, or has any more been released, or is that just kind of where we are
My
right
update. Go on my Twitter feed. I keep posting updates about this. At Armin Navabi. One of the girls she was very brave. The one Hosseini. She actually didn't show up to her court date. She was like, "I'm not like I don't. I refuse." She refused. So I don't know what's gonna happen. She's
now?
doing
Okay. I think she was gonna, did she think she was gonna get arrested or something?
probably. She might get a harsher sentence now that she didn't show up.
Yeah.
But she's like, no, I don't think I should be charged. It's my freedom. It's my rights. So I'm like, wow, you. I mean, I don't get it. These people are way braver than I would ever be. Some of
Well,
them.
I don't know. I don't know that any of them have jumped out windows yet.
Well,
So,
no, that's not bravery because I thought I'm gonna wake up in heaven.
well, that's true. But I mean,
No,
you do
I
have
mean, if you're
power,
standing
I
there,
guess.
like, get what you like these girls, they take off their hijab, they put it on a stick, they start waving it, and they just, you're gonna get arrested now. Like, and you're like, yeah, I don't care. I'm protesting our rights. This is for all of us. I'm like, holy shit! Like your this level of bravery and activism is
Yeah.
like something like one time I got arrested in Iran for being with a girl in a car,
I remember.
and that was not a pleasant experience, right? And
Yep.
I mean, and this was at the time that I didn't know what happens to prisoners, and these girls, they know what's happening to other prisoners, and they just go stand there,
Yeah,
and they're just willing to risk it all for the rights of other people, for their own rights and other women in Iran. And like, how much how much bravery does it take for you to do something like that? It's
for sure.
unbelievable.
Well, actually, I just pulled up your Twitter there, and you can see there's a video that you've got of what, I don't know which lady that one is, but that's quite the picture there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you shared
Mm.
with
And this
she's
is after the arrests too, right?
yeah,
So she knows that there are already been girls arrested, and they're still doing it.
yeah. And she's standing on an electrical box in the middle of a busy street waving it around. That's pretty ballsy.
Yeah, pretty
Definitely.
brain. And when some people, when they say like, you shouldn't do that. Why would you risk your life? Why would you risk imprisonment?
Why would you
To
not?
but here's the thing. I tell these people. I tell them, you're right now enjoying your freedom and enjoying your liberty, enjoying a sense of security, and I remind them that every freedom, every sense of security, any sense of peace that you're enjoying right now is because somebody
Did that.
somewhere in history, in your history, went and risked their life, their security, their freedom, their peace. Somebody sacrificed that at some point for
Absolutely.
you to be able to enjoy that today.
Absolutely. And if you talk to people that are kind of considered heroes in that respect, the vast majority of people will say, I'm not a hero. I just did what needed to be done. And that's
Right.
what it boils down to folks like that is I I can't stand to let the status quo be, I need to do something.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't want to encourage people to do this because it's not our place to encourage them, but it's also not our place to say not to do it, because
Right.
the only thing we can do is make sure they're aware of the risks. And if
Yes.
they're aware of the risks and they make the decision, it's their decision.
Absolutely.
We don't encourage people to do that because we're then we're going to be responsible for what that happens to them. But we also don't tell them not to, because they have decided that the risk is worth it to take those risks. The only thing you should do is to thank them. And once they do it, you have to try to support them and you have to try to protect them. That's the only thing we can do, right? We have to bring attention to them and we have to thank them for risking their freedom for others. If you think that's too much of a price to pay, then don't pay that price. But when somebody's willing to pay that price, at least give them the support and the attention that they deserve.
Absolutely. And before you go around saying something is fake, how about researching it first? Right?
I mean, here's the thing. It's good to be skeptical.
Yes, absolutely.
And don't believe it. When there's a claim being made, it's okay for you not to believe it. But when you say it's fake, then you have gone one step beyond not accepting a claim without evidence. Now you're making a new claim yourself.
That's right.
So it's one thing to say, okay, I don't know, but it's another thing to actually claim that this is fake. Because now, if you're claiming it's a fake, then you must know something that the rest of us don't. Right? That you went from a position to demanding evidence to actually claiming something to be fake. So now you have to provide evidence for this being fake, right? So be skeptical. Be like, it seems this is true because I don't know if it's true because I haven't seen other people, or it seems this is true because it's coming from other people that have produced a lot of trustworthy. So maybe it's likely that it's true, but I'm not still sure. But call it fake only when you know it's actually fake, because somebody has verified that this is actually something that is fake, right? If you're skeptical, be like, okay, I'm skeptical. Do you have more sources? Where is this coming from? Or I just be like, okay, it seems that it's likely because I see a lot of trustworthy sources to be pointing to the same thing, but I'm still only going to be 90% sure, but not 100% sure. But don't claim it's fake unless you know it's something is fake, right? So, for example, when the story came about the hijab being no longer mandatory in Iran, we went and checked the source, and we saw that this was actually the source of the story was this police officer in Iran, head of police in Tehran, that was only specifically talking about Tehran, not all of Iran. And he was only talking about people with bad hijab, not with people with no hijab. And he was specifically saying that they're not going to go to jail, but they're still going to be sent to mandatory classes, so they're still going to get arrested, right? And he also makes sure that he added the word people that have bad hijab without unintentionally. So if you determine that they have bad hijab intentionally, I don't even know what that means to have bad hijab unintentionally. You still could go to prison and you still could get fined, right? And he wasn't even at all talking about women with no hijab. He was talking about people with bad hijab. And that was the source. So when people took that story and said, "Oh, hijab in Iran, all of Iran, is no longer mandatory," and we were like, what the fuck are you talking about? This has nothing to do with. But so we knew that story was fake, so that's why we went out and called it fake, right? So but if somebody comes and tweets something and we're not sure that it's real, we're not going to call it fake. We're just going to say we're not sure that this is real. It's one thing to withhold belief, it's another thing to claim that something is not true.
That's right. And that almost sounds like a scenario of like a foreigner who wouldn't necessarily know how to wear a hijab being caught and said, that's wrong, you can't wear it like that. Or somebody who like
I
a young
think using the word unintentionally just makes it so flexible for them to do whatever they want. You know what I mean? Like you
group.
just have to, like, it's just such an ambiguous definition that basically gives, they were basically just responding to these protests, these people bringing more attention to his job. So this guy just said something that was, he kind of knew how to play the media a little bit, but
Right.
he also made sure that what he says is vague enough for them to still be able to do whatever they want.
Because you could interpret that too as somebody who wore a hijab improperly because, say, they don't like how it feels in a certain way, versus somebody who didn't wear a hijab properly because they think it's a bad idea and they want to push the envelope. Like,
Um,
they could interpret it.
I mean, girls in Iran know what's considered bad hijab,
Oh,
right?
I know.
They deal with this every day. Like, I really don't understand the
But it's like
non-intentional
it's
part.
like it's like Catholic school girls
Yeah.
who, because they're not allowed to shorten their skirt, so they roll it up from the top so it's shorter.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I don't. Well, I mean, I really don't know, but I just know that like, for example, in Iran, a lot of girls put their when I was there, they put their hijab halfway back, so a lot of their hair was showing, and whenever the
Yep,
morality police was passing by, they would just bring it a little bit more
forward.
forward, and once they pass, it would just bring it back. It just, and depends on where you are. Like if you were the way I remember, sometimes in quiche they would bring it all the way back around their neck as if it was just a shawl, right? And but depends on the political climate at the time, depends on the who you're dealing with, the city you're in, you know sometimes, and it's different. It's just really the fact, even if it was on paper that this is what we're gonna do, it really doesn't matter. It really depends on who's arresting you and who you're dealing with. Some girls actually said that I actually prefer going to jail than mandatory Islamic classes.
Yeah,
So,
I can see why that might be.
yeah, like,
I only spend, well, by the
but
time I do outtakes, I spend about 45 minutes a week reading the thing, and that's more than enough. Thank you.
my mom when she got arrested for wearing the red hijab, she was sent to an purifying Islamic class, and they were telling her. I think I told you this already. They were telling her that, why would you do this to our young men? Why would you tempt them? Why would you corrupt them like this? And my mom, and they said, they told her, like, they have these men, these young boys, they have sacrificed so much for our countries. They gave blood. They got martyred, and you would try to corrupt them like this. Why would you do this to them? And my mom said, like, no, 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 you don't understand. My hijab was red in honor of their blood that they sacrificed for our country.
Ah, nice.
So she was like
I
bullshitting.
I see where you get some of your wit from. That's pretty brilliant, though. It's like, no,
Yeah.
no, no, it was a tribute, man. You guys got it all wrong. See, now me, I'd be like, no, no, no. It's symbolic of menstrual blood, so they know they're not allowed to touch me. Which I gotta say, I was amused by the fact that women who are having their period don't have to pray or anything, because not even voodoo can cleanse a menstruating woman.
Yeah. Actually, when I found out about that when I was a kid in Iran, I was like, "Oh, you guys are so lucky! You get to not pray for so many days." I didn't understand the meaning behind. I didn't understand the meaning behind why they're not praying.
You're thinking, oh, those women are getting special treatment, and then you're to find out, oh, fuck no.
Yeah, as a boy, I couldn't understand why because I was raised in my own liberal social bubble, and a lot of women around me when I was growing up complained about the hijab so much. And as a young boy, I was like, why are they complaining? It's just a piece of cloth, right? For
Yep.
me, as a boy, I couldn't get it. I didn't understand it, right? But now I get it. Like, I tell people it's kind of the same thing as, I don't know, like, imagine. I know this is a bit extreme, but it's kind of like, you put chains around a black person, and we're like, You're like, what the fuck? This is so offensive, right? Don't you understand the history behind how black people were treated in the United States and everything? Like, what the
Yep.
fuck is? Well, like, this is just a chain around your neck. It doesn't hurt you. It's not gonna hurt you. Just think of it as a fashion statement. We could make it colorful. And like, no, fuck you. I'm not gonna, you shouldn't be made to wear something because of your or here's the Star of David. Hey, what's wrong with it? It's not gonna harm you. Just
You like
it's just
you
Star of
like Star of David, don't you? You're Jewish. You're
Yeah,
supposed
you're
to.
Jewish. What? You're not proud of your being Jew? Put a Star of, we're gonna make it law that every Jew has to wear a Star of David. It's not harmful. How does this harm you? Right? So if we can see how bad that is for Jewish people to make Jewish people, why can't we see that how bad it is for
Yep.
making a certain sex to a certain thing because of their sex, right?
This is what drives me crazy about people who try to say that the hijab is a symbol of feminism. I just want to take them by the shoulders and shake them and be like, "Are you fucking crazy?"
Mm.
Like I would never want to tell a hijabi you're not allowed to wear that, because that just plays into the same thing as what the hijab
You know
stands for.
what? Alishba actually, I think, worded it very well on the Secular Jihadists podcast
Yep.
when we had her as a
I
guest.
have her meme. I have her meme. I
Yeah,
post.
no, but she said something else other than the meme. She said that one is good too, but she mentioned that the choice to wear the hijab, being able to choose to wear the hijab, that choice itself, it's feminism, right? But the hijab itself is anti-feminism. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean?
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
So
Uh,
yeah,
no,
for example, if you go ahead and arrest a whole bunch of KKK members, right? Just because they're members, even though they haven't committed the crime, right? No matter how vile their ideology is, I'm gonna go defend them. I'm gonna be like, you can't just arrest these people because you don't like them, right?
that's
But I don't have to wear the fucking KKK costume to be to defend these
yeah,
motherfuckers, right?
that's right.
Because I
That's
know what this costume stands for, right? I'm gonna be like, no, you can't arrest these people. They haven't committed a crime. They're fucking idiots. They have vile ideology, but that's not good enough to arrest people.
well,
But it's another thing, and they get. I will even protect their choice to wear a KKK costume if they want to, right?
you're taught
But I
that.
will not. But I will not defend the KK costume itself. I will only. So there's a difference between
Well,
protecting people's choice to wear the costume. There's a difference between that and protecting the defending the costume itself.
I think
And
it was Alishba that told me once
yeah,
too. We have to support people's right to make bad decisions as well as good ones.
or have bad ideas. Well,
Yeah.
bad decisions. If your bad decision is gonna hurt somebody, then no, fuck you.
Well, I mean, in terms of wearing a hijab, right? It's if you want to make the bad decision to wear a hijab, well, okay, go for it. But don't tell me it in of itself is a symbol of feminism,
or,
because
or or say it, but also let me tell you why it's
it's
not. Right? No,
exactly.
go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say that this is a woman empowerment and do all of that. But I'm
And I
also gonna
tell
come
you,
and say that's fucking bullshit.
exactly. Speaking of hijabs too, what's your take on the little girl in Toronto that lied about getting her hijab cut up?
I mean, she's a little girl. I'm not gonna blame little girl for lying and trying to get attention, right? She's
Right.
right. I mean, I mean, it's a child, right? So maybe you could blame the environment that made it so that this will become an attention grabbing thing. Maybe you could blame the parents to I don't know if you can. I don't know what the background behind the story is or why she said that, but I would not blame the child herself. I mean, children are children. They do stupid things.
Some folks I knew had said that they thought it was possible she did it because she doesn't want to wear the hijab, and she thought that if her parents thought it was putting her in danger, they might say, "Okay, you don't have to wear it."
I don't know. I'm not. I mean, I'm not a mind reader, so it could be anything. I mean, who knows? It's a kid, right? I'm not a child expert, so I don't know
For
what
sure.
she's thinking. Yeah,
No,
but
it's
but
just, I think
but
what,
I just think people shouldn't use this as a. I mean, if I just want to remind people that just because now you found a case that somebody lied about it, that doesn't mean that Muslim women aren't being targeted, right?
yes, yes.
And I mean,
And in all
no
honesty,
matter how much we think that this is a shitty thing to wear, we still have to, I mean, be sympathetic. I mean, Islamophobia is a bullshit terminology, but anti-Muslim bigotry is a real thing.
yep.
And no matter how bad of an idea people believe, how how bad an ideology is, and how people shouldn't be punished for being wrong, right? People shouldn't be discriminated against for being wrong. And I don't, people that are using this story as a way to undermine how important it is to protect Muslim women that are being attacked should stop, I think.
Well, and case in point, like I posted about the story when it broke, and my main criticism is towards A, the school, and B, the police, because they had this big press conference and validated the claims before it was really properly investigated.
And
And
the media too, journalists
yeah,
too.
and media. And well, and I posted about it strictly because the police were involved and made it seem like they had verified it and whatnot. And I got a shit ton of flack for that. And I'm like, no, I make no apologies for believing the child. Right? Like you have
Well,
to take,
believing in police, because I don't believe children myself.
well,
Children, I mean, children. We're talking about people. When you say children, we're talking about people that think that there's a fat guy can fit into a chimney and bring presents to all
well,
the kids around the world.
okay. But I make no apologies for taking the child's claim seriously
Seriously, yeah.
until we knew not to. Like I say, I'm very critical of everybody reporting on this to the extent that it was before it was verified. That,
Right, right.
and it
No, no.
didn't
Yeah,
and it didn't take them very long.
believing claims is different from taking it seriously. For example, if you have, you can, we can take we can take accusations seriously without believing it, right? If somebody comes and say like, this guy's a murderer, I'm going to take this case very seriously and give it a lot of attention without actually believing it. Yeah.
I'm talking about, if somebody makes a claim like that, we need to
Investigate.
seriously investigate it.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. Yes.
And I thought that had already been done. And so I make no apologies for saying what I said, because, and what I basically said was the hijab sucks, but doing something like that is wrong.
Right.
And that message doesn't change, even though what her claim was not
Well, that
true.
message becomes more important because now people are going to take it less seriously next
Yep.
time.
Well,
So
I know you haven't had chance to listen to the new show yet, but I actually end every show by saying anti-Muslim bigotry is wrong, but Islamophobia is bullshit. People have rights, not ideas. I
good.
end every show with that. So, because
That's
it is important. Because I mean, I've just spent half an hour ripping on the Quran, so it's the least I can do is be like, look, don't treat Muslims like shit just because they have bad ideas.
right. I mean, we're all wrong about something.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Some
I'm
of us,
sure. I'm sure I have some ideas that if I knew better, I would find ridiculous.
possibly, yes. I don't know.
No,
Although,
not perfectly. I mean, almost for certain. Almost for certain. I just don't know which one of my ideas are wrong, because if I knew, I wouldn't be holding those ideas, right?
there
But
you go.
it's impossible for me to from
Well,
everything that I believe in right now to be true. I'm pretty sure there are some views that I hold right now that are absolutely ridiculous. I just don't know which ones there are.
I gotta mention too briefly, totally off topic, but wow, the Buddhist Nazi, holy shit.
Oh, watch that episode. Oh, that's good.
For those of you who don't know, Armin's really been working really hard on the Atheist Republic channel and talking to a lot of opposing view holders. And one of them was a guy who's an atheist or a Buddhist Nazi.
Yeah.
He even had the Hitler haircut. I'm really surprised he didn't have the mustache, but
a lot of Nazis actually reached out to me after and told me that, why did you bring this guy as a Nazi? This guy doesn't represent Nazis very well. Company. Next time, please bring a different Nazi.
That doesn't surprise me.
Did you see my interview with Amos E?
Yes. Oh lordy, that was another one. I honestly don't think I could stand to get through all of it because I just want to throttle the kid.
Watch it if you can. Tell me what you think.
I did watch most of it. I can't remember if because I'd watched another interview of somebody else with him too. So I can't remember if it was yours I had to stop or the other one, because I can't listen to this kid any longer. I just yeah.
I mean, again, but do you think though he just has a bad idea? He himself hasn't heard it anybody.
I think he doesn't. I think he has a bad idea. I don't think he understands the psychology involved in what he's talking about.
Right, but do you think he deserves the death threats he's getting?
Probably not, unless he is a pedophile and he's trying to justify.
Let's say he's not. He just thinks that he just has a bad idea.
He just doesn't understand what he's talking about.
Okay. Watch my debate with him. I think I kind of asked a few questions that I don't know. He claims that I didn't, but I think I asked a few questions that he couldn't answer.
He isn't the best at articulating the depth of
compared to the Muslim apologists for pedophilia, he was better, I guess.
He's better, but the Muslim apologists are working off of a script, right? And if you get them off the script, they're fucked.
But no, I mean, a lot of them tried to come up with things that, this was normal at the time, or women develop faster at that time. So they do have non-theological excuses as well. Right. So this Amos is trying to go by science and research and stuff like that. It's just a lot of the things that,
he's using bad research, or he's
even if you give even if you give him what he's saying, I still think his conclusions were not correct. But yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I just don't think that he's evil though. A lot of I don't know. A lot of times when you talk like when I talk to that Nazi Buddhist, right?
Yeah,
I kind of feel bad for him a little bit, because he's a Nazi and he doesn't seem like he wants to hurt anybody. So am I being a Nazi sympathizer now? Because I just feel like he just not that very good in processing information. I don't know, right? He just seems to have because he believed in almost every conspiracy theory that you threw at him.
I said this guy has never met a conspiracy he didn't love.
Right. So I just think okay, he just
I think with Amos too, though. I think he is trying to remain in the spotlight, and I think he kind of.
Do you think so? Because he can't get a job. He got kicked out of where he lives. He's all his YouTubes are he can't monetize. I really don't. Nobody would have him. Nobody would have him. Even Milwaukee people, right? The Mythicon, right? Yeah, when they got so much shit for having Sargon, they wouldn't even let Amos not only come speak, but he couldn't even attend as an audience. He couldn't even watch the debate, right? So that's how toxic he's become, right? So maybe wrongly he really thinks that he's protecting? I don't know. He's thinking
that he may have originally thought that this was accurate, Then I think he thought, oh, this is a great way to get attention. And maybe now he's thinking he may still believe that he's true, but I would expect that he's second guessing being so open and public about it, but I could be wrong. But I do think that he thought it was a good vehicle at one point, whether he's vehemently on board with it, or I think he does believe it. He's just wrong.
I just think like a lot of people, when they are wrong about something, it's sometimes just because they're just so fucking wrong, but not because they're evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, totally.
Like,
Absolutely.
not because they're like they want to, hurt people or they want to harm anybody.
I don't
They
see
just
that.
have
Yeah.
they're not wishing harm on anybody. They're just so fucking wrong, and we could point out how wrong they are without wishing them ill. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And like listening to him, I think he really does believe that it's
And-
not harmful.
Right.
And
I'm not talking about just him. I'm talking about like that
Nazi
Nazi
guy.
Buddhist as well, right? Like I think that
Well,
like
and he, like, I think you asked him if he's not for killing people because he's a Buddhist. So he's not of the Nazi variety that's going to go out and
well, I mean, a lot of these people, a lot of these white supremacists, they have that line going like, "Oh, we don't want to gouge the Jews. We just don't want them to be in power." And like, okay, that's fucking bullshit as well. I mean,
yeah.
I asked him, like, what does that mean? Like, are you going to be happy when Jews are like working McDonald's, but not they shouldn't be CEOs and stuff? And he was like what that exchange, like, what if they earned it? Or, like, what if they deserve to be in power because they worked hard for it? Like, who's going to determine if they deserve it or not? Like
Yeah.
what, I mean, I think I asked him some questions that he didn't consider before, but I d- you know I don't know, maybe he does want he does wish ill on some people, but I'm just saying we can't just assume that just because they belong in this category, therefore they must wish ill on people. Maybe they're just very, very wrong, right? But
Yeah.
if they do wish ill on people, then that's horrible and they're shit human beings. But if they don't wish ill on people and they have wrong, bad ideas, then we shouldn't demonize them. We should just realize that these are people that have come to some very faulty conclusions. And the problem is that a lot of people will say that we should expect more from people because their information is available. Internet ignorance is a choice right now. And I'm like, no, that's fucking bullshit. The thing is that just because the fact that you have the capability of evaluating evidence, the fact that you understand that what sources are credible, what sources are not, the fact that you understand what logical fallacies are, the fact that you even value these things, you have to understand that you have been maybe raised in a certain environment or had the luxury of education, or you have some good genes that makes you curious. Most people are not like that, and if you're expecting that from most people, then your expectations doesn't match reality, right?
A lot of people don't want to put that extra effort into processing a lot of information and forming opinions and maybe even being open to changing.
Well, I mean, to be quite fair, most people are dumb,
And
but
that's why we have religion, because
and
people
that's
don't.
okay. I mean, and the thing is that the fact that most people are dumb is not an insult. We have to accept that, and we have to make room for them, because we can't just make this planet just work for intellectuals. This planet should be working for everybody, right? These people deserve. If somebody is less intellectual than you, or you think they have less information than you, then they deserve your sympathy, not your not demonization. I think they deserve more help and more attention, you know, than people that are intellectual. Because I don't know. I just think we should look at people that have wrong information or can't come to the right conclusion with sympathy and understanding. Because if you're waiting for people to smart up for the world to become a better place, then you're going to be waiting for a very long time.
Yeah, I think that's true. Well, I think we've about come to the end of the evening. So thank you, Armin. Is there any other points that you wanted to make before we go or
Oh
anything? And
yeah, I'm starting. I have started. We have started a podcast called Atheist Republic Voicemails.
Yes.
Which is basically a podcast with no hosts. It's
Mhm.
just voicemails of atheists from all around the world. So if you listen to it, it's going to be like one voicemail praying from somebody in Pakistan, then the next one could be from somebody in Malaysia, then someone from Philippines, and the United States, and then maybe France. And it's just voicemails from atheists all around the world, giving their opinions, their pains, their requests, their worries. And you can listen to it as a way to get a feel for what different priorities or feelings are from atheists all around the world. Or you could also go to atheistrepublic.com and leave your own voicemail, your message of support for other atheists, or your own worries or your own concerns or your own stories from wherever you are to inform. Basically, we're trying to democratize activism, right? We want to basically let everybody become a host on their own podcast without actually having to start a podcast. All you have to do is just go to atheistrepublic.com. There's a green record button. You click on it. You can leave your name, or you could not leave your name if you don't want to. And then you leave a voicemail. And when you leave a voicemail, we play it to all our followers. And even if you're not an atheist and you want to tell us why we're going to burn in hell, or if you're not an atheist but you want to support atheists, you think like you're not an atheist, but you think atheists don't deserve to be discriminated like this, you could go and leave a message of support, or if you want to have feedback for Atheist Republic or support for other people around the world, go ahead and just go to atheistrepublic.com, click on the button and leave a message. Or just listen to other voicemails. It's on every podcast app should have it. Just search for Atheist Republic; it should show up.
And I've linked to Atheist Republic in the show notes, so you can actually just click that link and go straight there too.
Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And I've also linked to the Atheist Republic YouTube channel. As I said, Armin's been doing a lot of hard work talking to interesting and sometimes objectionable people on there, and very smart people as well. I really enjoyed your talk with Abdullah Gondal. That was, in fact, and I know because you're super busy and you haven't had time to listen to my show yet, but I actually referenced that in, I think, episode 2 when I'm talking about the history of the Quran itself. So
yeah, Abdul actually is much smarter than me when it comes to Hadith and Quran. So he's very good.
Well, from that exchange, I learned the whole Aisha is goat eating the Quran page. That was beautiful.
Also, we do a lot of good interviews on the Secular Jihadists podcast as well.
I was getting to that, but go ahead. Yeah, Secular Jihadists.
Yeah, it's with myself and Ali Rizvi. That's mostly focused on Islam. We do have some other episodes, like the next one that is coming. We talked to an ex-Jew, so you can see. That's going to be actually fascinating. Check that one out. It's actually really. It opened my eyes actually to a lot of things. Whenever I forget whenever we focus a lot on Christianity and Islam, we forget how fucked up some other religions can get. So listen to that episode as well. It's pretty good. So yeah, it's two ex-Muslim atheists talking about Islam or religion related issues with really great hosts and really great guests.
Yes, they are great hosts. I can vouch for both of them. I know I saw you guys had a Lishba on. I was like, oh shit, I gotta go listen to that.
Oh yeah, actually, if you care about feminism within the Islamic world, or anti-Islam, or in Pakistan or anything like that, or trying to bring the Me Too, something like the Me Too movement in places where it's needed the most, like in Pakistan, listen to that episode. That's a very good episode for
that. We had Elishba on the show here too, and she's quite the firecracker.
Oh my god, she's great.
One of my favorite ladies.
Yeah.
You do.
No, like even before she came, I knew we both knew that's gonna be a great episode because she doesn't hold back, and
no, she doesn't.
Yeah,
no, she doesn't. No. That's why she's one of my favorite ladies.
Yeah.
It's even more fun in person, let me tell you. Actually, when the two of us get going, it's like you know, everybody else around is just like, are they done yet? As we just start venting about everything. It's awesome. But yeah, that's a good one. Definitely check that out. Well, again, Armin, thank you so much. And next week, now important, and I know I said we weren't going to be doing this for a while, but I lied. We're having the show on Sunday instead of Monday. Why, you ask? Because our good friend Joe Magestro, who we talked to about 4 weeks ago about the Brew City benefit, he's coming back, and this time we're going to talk about the craziness that was his church, the Iglesia Ni Cristo from the Philippines. And that's kind of important because they've been in the news here in Canada since we had the show with Joe. So he's going to come back and talk about that crazy sect of Christianity. And as we know, he's not available Mondays, so we're doing special day on Sunday, but it is the regular time at 7:30 p.m. So I will make sure put big block letters in my notifications. It's special day. It's on Sunday. So do remember that. And I did release a new episode of Full Quranic on Friday, so do check that out. One of the biggest letdowns in storytelling ever, but I'll let you hear that. And we also, spoiler alert, I guess, we find out Allah definitively says he does not give us a choice. So there we have it. I don't know why we need any more Quran after that if Allah doesn't give us a choice, but apparently we need 3/4 of a more of a book. So what do we know, right? So that's at fullquranic.com. You can find all the back episodes. And of course, I'll be putting out another episode on this coming Friday as well, which is fun. So there you go. And like I said, we'll be here on Sunday to talk to Joe about the Iglesia Ni Cristo out of the Philippines. And of course, too, I'm on Holy Crap, the vlogcast, which is Sunday mornings at 12:05 a.m. And you can hear and see all about that at holycrapthevlogcast.com. So I think until next week, we'll be back. And Beth sends her regrets. She kind of fell asleep and my text didn't wake her up. So she's sorry. She'll be here next week and Morgan should be too. And until then, I will leave you with the human creed for mankind and we will see you then.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.